Now we've talked about the different types of guns, we've talked about the rounds, we've talked about the way they fired it. There's one more thing we need in order to load and fire a weapon. And what is that?
People.
We need people. We need a cannon crew. A cannon crew for the field artillery consisted of 8 people. Each of them had a specialized job, and they're all known as cannoneers. And I will take a moment to go through those jobs now so you can see what, and they'll demonstrate what each one is doing. Cannon number 1. Cannon number 1 uses what is called a sponge rammer. At the beginning of the loading process, cannon number 1 will dip his sponge in the bucket and sponge the tube in order to extinguish any previous embers that may be left over from other firings. After he has sponged it out, he'll then turn that around, use the ram portion of that to ram the round to the end of the barrel, which is inserted by cannon number 2. And then after the round is inserted, his job is done and he steps out. Cannon number 2! Cannon number 2 has the job of actually taking the round from cannon number 5 and inserting it into the barrel. And then after the firing is completed, he also uses a claw-like device known as a worm in order to remove the fragments of the powder bag that are left over in the cannon. Cannon number 3. Cannon number 3 has 3 different jobs. At the command of load, he will step in using what is called a thumb stall, which is a piece of leather attached to his thumb, which he can then use to plug the vent hole. Doing this prevents any oxygen from getting into the tube prematurely while the gun is being loaded and preventing it from going off. After the gun is loaded, cannon number 3 will walk back to what's called the trail spike, and the gunner will indicate what direction he wants the cannon moved. So cannon number 3 will use the trail spike to move the cannon back and forth. And then his next job, at the command of ready, he will step in with what is called the vent pick in order to puncture the powder bag. Cannon number 4! Cannon number 4 has what is called the lanyard. The lanyard is a rope that is pulled that actually fires a piece. The rope has a hook on the end of it that hooks into the friction primer, and at the command of ready, he'll step in after the number 3 has vented the piece. Cannon number 4 will insert the friction primer. He will then attach the lanyard, walk back out until the rope is taut, and that at command of fire pulls the lanyard. Boom! That's what you have. That's what creates the big boom. Cannon number 5. Cannon number 5's job is to walk back to the limber to get the round that the gunner has called for, and then to take it back up to number 2 to insert in the gun. And then ideally you would also have cannoners number 6 and 7 back at the lanyard in order to prepare the rounds that the gunner has asked for. The 8th member of the cannon crew for the field artillery has no number. That person is the gunner. The gunner has overall command of the piece. He calls the commands, calls the command of load, and at that point he will step in, use the elevating screw to adjust the angle of the cannon fire, to move the tube up and down. He will also indicate the direction that he wants the cannon aimed. Once he's satisfied, he steps back out and uses this signal, and then he'll give the command of ready, and the friction primer will be inserted, and then he'll give the command fire. The cannon crew for the howitzer is slightly different. Number 1 still uses the sponge rammer. Number 2 still inserts the round, although number 2 and number 5 ideally change places. Number 3 is actually the one that fires the lanyard, and he's on the other side. He's on the opposite side of the number 4 who fires the lanyard for the field artillery. The gunner is the one who uses the vent wire to puncture the powder bag. So slightly different on the mountain howitzer. A well-trained cannon crew can load and fire one of these cannons at 3 rounds a minute. And it was very important that you did each step. Otherwise, you might have an accident. Accidents were not uncommon. Guns could get overheated and explode, making life on the cannon crew very dangerous. Not only was there the possibility of accidents, the cannon was a coveted prize by the enemy, and they often sent sharpshooters off to pick up either the horses moving the cannons down the field or the cannoneers themselves. But being a cannoneer was a dangerous job, but a necessary one. Cannoneers who did this definitely deserve our respect. Now we're going to go ahead and fire the guns again one more time, and again caution you to cover your ears if you have sensitive hearing. It does give off a rather loud boom. And yeah, go ahead and think it's cool if you want to, but respect it for what it is, a weapon that was used for fear and intimidation, but also a weapon that was used to demonstrate and to advance the growing power of the United States in the mid-19th century. Question?
Do you know what you would do if the cannon crew got hurt?
You would fire them with diminished numbers. Every cannoneer was trained so that he could do any position.
Good question.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fire one more time. Again, encourage you to cover your ears. And once we're done, you're welcome to come up, ask more questions, and take pictures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. American history.
Firing one line round, solid shot. Commence firing.
Maybe this one dances so cool.
That's the cannoneers, that's the guy, this is called Paul Lumbar. Kind of like the lumbar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The shot up and then put it in the team.
Well,
Say the same thing, okay, she stepped back.
Oh, the fat fell out. No.
The guys that would skip so they have to put, see the little guy. See, he's got,
I see you. I'll move.